March Madness coming to a close, and this is the fan choice. Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye. Who do you got? Let's go. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District's March Madness QB edition. March Madness is over in the college basketball world. We are coming to a close here. We have to decide now between Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye. That was your choice. The viewers decided that. We took J.J. McCarthy in the Drake Maye versus the J.J. McCarthy. Will we take Drake Maye over Jayden Daniels? Well, we're going to debate about it right here because I think we might surprise you after the conversation is over. You're going to have to let us know, though, who you think and why you think that, both in our community poll that we're going to have available for you and right here in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching, or if you're listening to this rather on audio, make sure that you leave us a rating and review and give us a comment out there in social media wherever you follow us. And that way we know you support the channel. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on Ref the District, a part of the Believe Network. And we started this journey, Stoner, because we wanted a fun way to break down the QBs that Washington had available. And then when we started this bracket, we still had Sam Howell. So it made sense that some of these fallback categories were there. But to nobody's surprise, most of us, I think, wanted one of the top guys. And this is where the fans took us. Jayden Daniels, our number one pick here, and Drake Maye, our number two pick. And this was just kind of consensus at the time when we created the bracket where number one and number two fell. But fans are very, very passionate about these two. You got the Maniacs and you got the, what do we call these again? The Jayden Daniels. I know I call you a Danny boy.
Yeah. What did we call it? Somebody had a good name for it, but sorry, we've already forgotten it.
Yeah. They're going to get a name because if Jayden Daniels is the pick, it's absolutely going to end up getting, something, tagged to it. I know one of them was like Swifties, so the Dannies or something like that. We'll come up with a fun name, or you can come up with a fun name if you're listening to this and let us know right in that comment section. But again, these are the top two. This is really where I think a lot of the national pundits expect Washington to go, is one of these two. Drake Maye was number two for the longest time, considered, right up there with Caleb Williams. Some people say that actually Drake Maye is actually the best prospect in this draft. And then you also have that same thing being said about Jayden Daniels with his explosiveness, with his ability to run, that he's a multi-threat, multi-talented. People are comping him to Randall Cunningham. That's a bold take. But
and it's
not unwarranted. We'll see.
And it's interesting also. I think also, to be fair, Nathan, that if you are watching this for the first time, by the way, make sure you do everything that Nathan said, hit the like button and all that other good stuff. But it needs to be kind of reiterated that Caleb Williams is going number one. That's why he's not in our bracket. He's going number one in Chicago. Don't overthink it. Don't try and think you're smarter than everybody else out there, because Caleb Williams is number one. So we wanted to get all the other guys and kind of put them in that bracket. But it is interesting that you and I came up with a different name in J.J. McCarthy than what everybody else seems to want in our polls. And we're talking about 1,500 votes. We're not talking about 10 or 15 people. 1,500 votes overwhelmingly selected Drake Maye over J.J. McCarthy to face Jayden Daniels in this final. So it's going to be interesting for us to break this down. I'm excited to do that.
Well, let's go ahead and get this one underway here. So again, I've talked about how both of these are the top two selections. In fact, if you look at Bet Online right now, they're kind of neck and neck with the odds, and Bet Online is going to set you up just right. So it's your number one source for all of your summer sports this season. March Madness is gone. In the real world, we got your March Madness QB here. But if you want to bet on baseball, golf, basketball, NHL, all of it's going to be right there for you on Bet Online. Get the latest stats, news, scores, get the latest odds, the lines, including team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport. Head to Bet Online today or use your mobile device and get in the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Neck and neck. Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels. Let's start with the guy that I know you do not favor, Drake Maye. What are his positives? We talked about this in the JJ McCarthy video. This guy could be a 10. I know some people disagreed with me in the comment section with that, Stoner, but his attributes, right? He's great size, great arm strength. He's got athleticism. He's can hit all throws that you need an NFL QB to do. We know his knock is inconsistency. That's why you or I didn't pick him. But what are those strengths that make him one of the top prospects in this NFL draft?
Yeah, I think if you looked up prototypical quarterback up on Wikipedia, you would see a picture of Drake Maye in there. As you said, perfect size, perfect arm strength, perfect athleticism for a guy of that size, especially. So he's got all the attributes. He can make every throw. He is dangerous when he gets out of the pocket. He doesn't take a ton of sacks. He just does a lot of things really well. You asked me only for my positive attributes for him. Those are my positive attributes. And listen, those are good positive attributes to have. Those will get you at the top of any sort of QB board when we're talking about NFL draft. So for that part, I think he's got a lot going for him. I'm going to segue right into the negatives, Nathan, and what I don't like about him. And it really is a major issue for me. And that is his mechanics. And his mechanics are not as solid. His footwork is not where it needs to be at this point, right? So what does that do? If you don't have the proper mechanics, you're going to be an inconsistent thrower. Can he make the throw? Yes. Can he even process? That's something to be determined. I'm not so sure. But even if he does make the right read, his mechanics causes him to make bad throws. So you can just see an absolute dime on one particular play on, let's just say first down, an absolute dime on an out pattern where it took everything you need in a good quarterback to make that throw. And he makes it and completes it. And then second down, let's just say he scrambles and runs all around and gets out of trouble and fakes a pass downfield and then gets a few more yards, which should have been a loss. And you're like, wow, there's his athleticism. And then on third down, he goes back and doesn't set his feet properly and doesn't have the proper throwing mechanics, and then throws a wide open guy over his head. And you're like, why can't you just do the same thing you did on first and second down? Why can't you do it on third down? And that's the sort of thing that makes you watch him and just say, I'm not so sure this is the guy that I want leading my team.
It is frustrating with him because you do have just so many wow plays. I mean, if you want to watch highlight tape, the kid's got some highlights. Okay. I mean, I don't think there's a game he's played where he doesn't have a money throw or just this play that you're just like, oh, wow, how did he do this? He threw it left-handed a touchdown, or he's got guys trying to drag him down and he just throws an absolute dart. He's got that playmaking ability, but then there is that negative where he throws the ball into the dirt on an easy pass. A lot of people talk about Caleb Williams and his hero ball, and that's kind of what got him in trouble his last year in USC and why some people maybe are a little down on him. Well, football reasons why they're down on him, because there's other reasons which are ludicrous, but we're talking about Drake Maye. Drake Maye has that same kind of mentality. He did not have help in North Carolina the same way that Jayden Daniels had help out there in LSU. And so that's one of the things I think people look at with him and say, hey, he didn't have, 2 first-round wide receivers. He didn't have the best offensive line. He had to do it all himself. And he did try his best and had some, fantastic games. Obviously didn't win a lot of them there with North Carolina, but my worry with that, Stoners, those are the same things we heard about Sam Howell, right?
Sure.
And now the difference is Sam Howell's seen his final year at North Carolina. Sam Howell had a significant drop off on several different things, which is why he ended up falling to the 5th round. Drake Maye, statistically, if you're looking at raw stats, had some changes to the raw stats, but if you want to look at some more of the advanced stats, he actually stayed right about the same and is
Sure.
graded very well in that. Bonehead plays, but just wow plays. It's going to be, it's really is feast or famine with him. And you said at 2, Stoner, you
Mhm.
want a guy who has that 10 potential.
Yeah. Well,
Jaden Daniels might have 10 potential too.
you're right. And we're being nitpicky about this, right? We're criticizing, or we're looking for some finer details of what we don't like about a guy versus another guy. But we're not saying Drake Maye is a 5th rounder. We're talking about the difference between being the number 2 overall pick and being the number 3 overall pick. Drake Maye's not dropping out of the top 5. That's a guarantee. He's not dropping out of the top 4. He's either going to go 3 or 4 if Daniels goes number 2, like I suspect he will. So we're just kind of nitpicking. All those things that we're talking about with Drake Maye can be fixed with obviously with the right tutelage and with the right practice and the right coaching. All of that can be fixed, and he could be a franchise quarterback. So we have to nitpick when we're talking about 2 guys who are going to get picked at the top. But everything that I see with Jayden Daniels, I've got, if you want to put a number on it, I've got him at like in the 97th percentile in terms of everything that I like about him. There's just the only thing I don't like, and I don't even have a problem with his size, to be completely honest. The only thing I don't like, and it's an advanced stat, and it's that sack ratio, it's that pressure to sack ratio, and it's a real thing. It's proven if you look over all of the quarterbacks who have had issues in college with the pressure to sack ratio, they have not been successful, minus a couple outliers like Joe Burrow and I think Lamar Jackson, and that's it. And so we're talking
Even
about
those
he's
guys
in a bad
have much better pressure to sack ratios than Jaden Daniels did over
Mhm.
his college career.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the only part that scares me. So if I'm a GM and I'm looking at these two, and I have a choice between these two, and Washington will have a choice between these two, those are the sorts of things I'm going to look at. There's a lot more to it, obviously, with all the time that you get to sit down and talk to the kid and the kids, both of them, and see where they're at mentally and all of that. All of that plays a role into it, but we're not privy to that sort of information. So the information we have is what we can watch on tape. We've watched basically every throw Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels have ever thrown in the college game.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to Jayden Daniels at Arizona State. We've seen it all. We've seen them grow and get better. And it's just at some point you just have to say, what is it that this guy does better than this guy? Or what is it that this guy doesn't do as well as the other guy? And then you have to make a decision. And I think that's where the decision comes in, that Jayden Daniels has to be the guy for Washington at number 2, if these are my 2 choices.
The pressure to sack ratio thing became very big for Commanders fans last year with Sam Howell, and he was on rate to, break the record. I mean, smash the record.
Right.
Set with Carr at 7 in the 70s, low 70s. And Sam Howell was going to get sacked 100 times. He would have beaten the record with 14 games, didn't need the full 17 games to do it. And so that's where we started looking and we saw, wait, he's had this problem his entire college, career. Oh, wait, all these QBs had this problem in the college career. In fact, Sam Howell, by the way, did finish with a 23.1% pressure to sack ratio. And to give you an idea of where Jayden Daniels is, his career is at 24%.
Yeah, so he got better, right? From year
his
to year.
last season is an anomaly currently. Well, it is the anomaly in his college career at 20.2%, which would put him right around Russell Wilson territory, who, by the way, led the league in sacks several times in his career. And to me, that's a problem. I don't have a problem with the size. I don't have a problem that he's a running quarterback. There's this idea that running quarterbacks get injured more often than non-running quarterbacks. That's just not the case.
Right.
I understand the idea behind it, right? Like they're putting themselves out there to get hit more often, so therefore they must get hurt more often. What's going to get a quarterback hurt isn't the scrambling, it's the hanging in the pocket. It's the taking unnecessary sacks.
Blindside, don't see
Yeah.
it coming hits.
Yeah, and that's what worries me with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels also has a high scrambling percentage. He can go through his reads. I've seen that. Okay, I've watched games over and over again to see him go through that. I've heard pundits, right? Because I'm just some dude in his shed. All right.
Right.
Like I watched pundits, I listen to pundits, and pundits talk about how he can go through his progressions. But there's also that other side of that where sometimes when that wasn't there, when his read wasn't there, he puts the ball down and he runs. Yardage is yardage. Okay. If he gets it on the ground or if he gets in the air, I'm fine either way. The problem is the when he decides to run like that and he doesn't give himself the option for a bigger play because he's not moving the pocket or he's not resetting to look for something. He's got straight line speed. He can reset and try to find a big play, or he can just bolt and run. His problem is right now is that he just bolts and run. And I think what's good for either of these QBs and what has me happy about either of these, I'm on record. I like all top 4 QBs, from Caleb Williams all the way to JJ McCarthy. However you want to rate the 4, I like. If Washington ends up with one of them, I'm ecstatic. Okay, we've got the coaches who I think can help any of these QBs, and I do think Jaden Daniels will be, if healthy, a contender. If not, just straight outright the offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's definitely that possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's explosive. And I mean, and we're talking about Drake Maye and the wow plays that he has. Jaden Daniels throws a pretty deep ball, and Jaden Daniels makes some crazy runs, that blow by. And maybe it does give Commanders fans a little bit of an RG3, flashback, and we don't want that to happen. But this is a much better prospect. And how big I was on RG3. Jaden Daniels is a much better prospect. I think the time that he spent in Arizona State, moving to LSU, you can see the growth in his game, which is why maybe that pressure to sack ratio his senior year at 20% isn't such an anomaly. Maybe he did learn some things, or maybe he was just better that time about getting the ball out.
Yeah.
It is a little too much for me, though, Stoner. I think both of these guys have immense talent. I think both of them can learn from the coaching staff that we have. I think the floors are similarly, they could bottom out. And I think we need to speak realistically about that. If 4 QBs are taken in the top 10, realistically, only one of them is hitting.
You're right.
We hope
maybe 2.
Ours, maybe 2. Maybe 2. It's just statistically, and people like to throw this out as well, first round quarterbacks have a high failure rate. Okay. All QBs have a high failure rate. If you want to go down each of the rounds, it gets less and less likely that they're going to be successful. The first round is just where you have the best traits. And I think if you're looking for best traits and what you can work with if you're looking for somebody to mold, I think Drake Maye is actually the option.
Did you just kind of throw a curveball and you are taking Drake Maye over Jaden Daniels?
I'm taking Drake Maye over Jaden Daniels.
Okay. So that's the end of our channel because we can't be friends anymore. I mean, come on, Drake Maye. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I see. It's a little bit different. We're doing who we like, who we want to be there. I don't think Washington is taking Drake Maye. And I think it has to do, or you can kind of read the tea leaves. To me, I'm reading the tea leaves on this, and that the quarterback that they brought in as a backup has an explanation or a foretelling of what's going to happen in this draft. And it has nothing to do with their style. Marcus Mariota coming in, Mariota, I think it's Mariota. I got chastised for saying Mariota. Nobody, including Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, nobody wants Mariota starting 6 games for this team next year at the beginning and letting somebody sit. I think if you draft Drake Maye, he's got to sit. He's got to learn for a little while. Jaden Daniels, day 1. So when they were looking at who they wanted to bring in as the backup quarterback. They said, we're going to bring in somebody who's not going to be a threat and who we don't necessarily want starting unless by injury. So, because Mario, look, he's not good anymore.
I was about to say,
Not that
if he ends
was.
up being a threat to whoever we take at 2, we took the
Right.
wrong player.
You take Jacoby Brissett, and if he was still here, then that might be like the team saying, look, we're going to bring somebody in that we're going to bring
New
along
England.
slowly, that we're going to have Jacoby Brissett be that bridge guy. Mariota's not a bridge guy. Mariota is strictly a guy you throw in there when you absolutely have to and you don't have any other choice. So I think that's a little bit telling on what they're going to do. That's just me reading the tea leaves. That's why I think they're going to draft Jayden Daniels. And if I were advising them, if they call me up, which they've called me up many times, believe it or not, and I've told them my opinion, Jayden Daniels, I think, is the winner of this QB bracket, that he should be the number 2 pick for Washington and will be the quarterback here for the next 6 to 8 years.
One could hope. I definitely think they've got a couple good options on the table here, whether or not it's Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, or JJ McCarthy, who we're going to release that one later this week, that was our choice. So we're going to debate those two here. And my tea leaves thing. Okay. There was a report coming out today and I don't have it in front of me right now. So I can't give you quite the source, but if you watch us on Wednesday, I'll source it there. Is that Jayden Daniels said that his meeting didn't go well. And also you got to read those tea leaves that they shipped Sam Howell maybe to preserve the relationship between Drake Maye and Sam Howell. Who knows? I think that's what's brilliant behind all this. We really don't have a good idea. You look at the national media, and I think they've just stopped trying to read Adam Peters and Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn, and they just started, going, okay, we're just going to rate them however we feel they should go, because we don't know where Washington's going to pick. Dan Quinn talked, highly about what he likes about Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye and what he likes in a quarterback in general. John Keim from ESPN had a wonderful article on that. And we just don't know. So we need you to help us. I'm on Drake Maye. Stoner here is on Jayden Daniels. Who do you have? Again, get to the polls in our community section here and vote in that. Leave a comment here. And if you like what you heard today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, as we produce this stuff for you guys, and we'll continue producing great content after March Madness QB edition is done. We're going to go back to some player profiles and talk about who we're eyeing later in the draft, who we think Adam Peters should target. If there's a player you like, also make sure we know about them so that way we can check that person out as well. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here from Ref the District on the Believe Network, brought to you by Bet Online. And until next time,
call me.
Be a fan.